Hello there, it's day 191 of 365 days towards racial change. My name is Tomlins and I'm back here talking about black issues in America, racism, impact of living in a white system, navigating it, how we can do better, how we can get beyond it, breaking a log jam of denial that may exist with some black people. It doesn't exist with me. We'll talk about some things today as we continue our leadership series here. Thanks for hanging out in here with me. There's a lot. Look, this is Dr. Anderson's work here that we reference, and Uncle Tom's Cabin, and all that. We got plenty of material to fill up a whole year. We got 400 or 500 years, centuries of stuff to talk about, ongoing. Today we're going to maybe touch at how America's racism I'm seeing now, just at this moment, as I put this post together. America went from wholesale, outright, overt, blatant exclusion, exploitation of a people based on the color of their skin, black people. I don't want to confuse it with people of color. Everybody's some color. When there's a crime and you're a witness to the perpetrator, they're going to ask you for the color of that individual. So I'm not talking about people of color. I'm talking about black people. Hopefully, coming up on 200 days at this, you'll understand my and Dr. Anderson's reason to be very specific about black people. But this country's gone from outright slavery. Boats parked in the harbor filled with the black Africans who survived the voyage, whether they came straight to the Americas or they came through a vetting and training process through the islands, the Caribbean and stuff like that. We haven't talked much about that, how blacks physically got here. Not a big issue because it doesn't change how blacks were treated when they came here. But we came from overt slavery, exploitation, stolen labor, and all that to how it has kind of gone underground, the exploitation of black people, how it's not as visible. I'm guessing there are some people, and I think I can safely point out, say, the white supremacist community as an example, that they just want to say, to hell with those niggers, yeah, I treat them this way, and I'm tired of the law trying to dilute my ability to oppress those people based on the color of their skin. I'm through with it. I just want to say it out loud, but they can't. They can't do that. They're going to get in trouble. We've got some laws now. We got legislation. But, I don't know. Do you want to be in a room? I mean, let's shackle a racist, a murderous rapist. Let's shackle him in the same room with a black person. That those shackles are the law. Do you want to be in the room with a person that needs to be shackled from murdering you? Has this legislation put on them, preventing them from expressing themselves on you, on your person? Or do you want a white person whose heart is altruistic, benevolent, loving towards you, black person? You know, you don't need no chain. That I'm getting into some biblical wisdom and philosophy there. You know, that love and all this stuff. Puts away the need for chains. It usurps all the need for legislation, debates, the power structures, and all this stuff that human beings engage in America. So racism, it's kind of gone underground. It's still there. It sits there like a landmine, right? I don't think I step into those situations as much, because I have some literacy. I've handled this information for a little bit now. I've been able to reflect on my life and see that most times when there's been some conflict around me with white people, that it stems from racism. It's a racism context, and it's not like they are overtly calling me out my name or something like that. Is that the expectation on me, a black man, is to be submissive, not rock the boat, not offer ideas, that my ideas are somehow uh, not valid because I'm black, you know. But when the same little white girl or a white person offers the same idea, it's like the gates of heaven have opened, and suddenly the solution has appeared. So I get real frustrated at that. I tell people, do this little thing, whatever, and white people usually don't listen. You know, I personally, I don't expect much from black people. We are, there's a very real sense in which we are a mentally challenged, damaged to a degree group of people from the institution of slavery and the ongoing institution of racism in America. Still here and very real. And it's in our face. We get executed by law enforcement. There's no um, compensation, or everybody said that we went by the book, therefore we are absolved from any wrongdoing. Things like that. You gotta come on, wake up. Just wake up, everybody. Call it what it is. It's real. It's alive. It's still here. You know, it kind of gets harder for me. Like, now that my eyes are open, the bell is rung, and I almost wish I was still ignorant in some ways, because then it'd be a blissful state, and I would just not understand what happened to me. I would not get it. I wouldn't, Yeah, it's sad, very sad. So that's what we got to get to. So this leadership series is important. Let's talk about that in a second. On that note, then, what's the mind of America, right? We're not we're distracted and diluted enough at all parties. I don't know how we get anything done. Now I work nights, so now I see what goes on in the country during the day. There's huge decisions being made and all this, and America has been one of its best initiatives. It seems to have has been like let's get the people who are so working, so distracted, placated enough to a degree where they're just ineffective, non-responsive, apathetic to what's going on, what's going on. And when we come home from work or whatever our distraction is, things have changed and we don't know how to engage the system. We don't know how to have a voice. It's a whole community and arena out there making policies, they say, on my behalf. And I'm just caught in a passive, busy state, trusting that these people are making these decisions with my best interest in mind, which they are not. You know why they're not? Because they've not heard from me. They don't know what my issues are. I've not called a congressman, written a petition, been out on the streets, stuff like that, cast a vote, so they don't know. In my opinion, the system is just too damn complicated, which is another initiative. It's just this big machine rolling on. Yeah, they tell me my vote counts, and it doesn't. It didn't this last election. One person got the popular vote, one person got an electoral college vote. So what's going on here? And you hear a divided report on that, because both sides said they got the most votes. Yeah, it's way too complicated. I tell you what, if they simplified the system where it could be credible and simple, you'd see a whole big change. Whole big change. But you got people in power determined to stay there, and they're not visible. The people you see visible on TV and the news and all, they're not even in control. Not really. It's people, huge names you don't hear about. People that ain't trying to be visible, or that stay behind the scenes, or that appear to be a counsel to the visible faces. Those are the real people making policy. The mind of America. Those black folks need to do this, understand this. Fortunately, I've had enough experiences to know not to be fooled, and I keep my head immersed in the subject, and I see it when I'm out in public, directed at me. So it's very real, and I want to keep it fresh in my mind. The black mind, the white mind, expectation of favor, how it moves in and out amongst America and in the world. Very important point. Very important uh, things going on there for the white mind in America, and how that must be, how to shake them, how to encourage them to. You're not going to encourage them to do a whole lot of change, have this big white revival, and suddenly open the gates, economic gates and social gates of America, and let the blacks flood into their spaces. Um, that'd be great, but that's not what we're going to see. Be just enough for them to acknowledge um, some of the insidious ways that portions of the white community inflict their will against black people. Very important. Very important. We've got a long way to go. Long way to go. Second big issue is for financial literacy. How's money work? And all this. I've got a whole new thing. I've got a lot of financial issues out there, but now I'm getting some information. It's like, I know I fell into financial traps and pre- have been victim to predators, financial predators out there and whatnot. Um, so I got a little hole to dig myself out of, but I've stopped digging financially. You know, I even got a little rebate because I'm waiting on some important equipment to come through, and yeah, I really feel real good about having my financial mind, that aspect going. It's very important in America because that's what America is. It's the greenbacks, these federal notes that we trade with one another. Very important to know how that works. It should be no mystery that we're not told how they work and why we're not educated about that in school. They hold us in school, held me in school, 13 years public school. How they just didn't tell. I just was cast out into the world. Made my mistakes early and I carried around like luggage. Like I hear the disease herpes. You get herpes and you got it for life. These strange viruses out there. So that's a huge problem. Um, and many people that do well in America, of all colors and races, I've heard say, America needs to come up on that and needs to teach Americans how America works. You know, you got this president talk about make America great again, but you notice he doesn't talk about. I've never heard him talk about educating people about finances, and this guy's a billionaire, worth anyway. What I know about money is that he's not really worth that much. He's worth that much on paper, keystrokes and pen strokes and all that. Um, but I know where the source of money and its fictional root. So he's not really worth that much. And he doesn't talk about, how to make America great. You know, he goes back and forth like he's on the playground at recess with people that have different views than him. But I've never seen, he's got no education. I'm not talking about his school and all that stuff. I'm talking about a general message to the population about uh, financial education in America. You know, where's that at? All right, enough of that. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. We reference his works heavily. A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask, Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice. We're in here. This is where we're getting our leadership information from. If you have that book, you can find it easily. And Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com. Behind you, you'll see the hashtag us2 symbol. You'll find Black women conversing there, supporting one another. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF. It's kind of a Black Facebook, not the only Black voice on the internet, of course. But if you're surfing and Googling and linking and all that, and you can't find your flavor, do what I did, start your own and see what happens. I got a little grassroots, little private email list going. That's good enough for me, man. This is a personal thing for me anyway. I'm not looking for this grand explosion and being lucrative and all this commercialism and stuff like that. That's another time. I'm just planting roots here, strong roots. And finally, we take a fictional look at the life Slave Life in America, Uncle Tom's Cabin. About time for story time. We're going to finish up this series, and I think we're going to do a very intensive story time length length of post. I'm going on vacation, and I've got to get my logistics together. Day 191, leadership recommendation. Point one is Dr. Anderson. He brings out the first thing. His first recommendation is one unifying goal. What's our one goal? When I say one goal, like I don't want to sit down. I sat down with some like-minded black people the other day. We all kind of had the same goal, but it was three of us, and we had three different things going. And so I didn't leave. It wasn't, and it was just a meet and greet. It wasn't, we weren't intentionally trying to get an initiative going. But anyway, I didn't leave with a sense like we were going to do that. you know, we each went to our separate ways and our separate concerns, putting our separate energies into what we felt was important. Not a bad, not a bad thing. It's something positive, but getting blacks around one goal is going to be a problem. It's the one success of civil rights and social integration is that the majority of blacks wanted that, as much as a failure as it is and was, the because a lot of them wanted that, and the movement was directed in that way. They had a unifying goal, and things happened. It's going to be even harder today with our smart devices, plenty of initiatives to keep us pacified, fed, doing well, healthcare and things like that. I've been homeless, and there are plenty of networks to keep a person going. Might not ever participate in America's uh, great wealth, but you'll be taken care of. You can stay clean, dry at night, sleep in a bed, all over America. It's out there if you want to plug into it. So, but a unifying goal to make life better for blacks, that's going to be a challenging to find one to begin with. Now, in my notes, I kind of state that I hope it doesn't, like, we don't need a whole lot of violence and revert to overt racism again against black folks. That would be a big step backwards. But any major movement has that kind of violence-oriented beginning. Look at Christianity, uh, liberation of the Indians in India through Gandhi's work, Dr. Martin Luther King's work. These nonviolent, although Christianity has its issues, it had its violence. Uh, but these nonviolent initiatives begin with so much bloodshed and overt oppression. The point, the goal, I would say, the goal is probably the same. It's not as hard to find. Dr. Anderson uses the term self-empowerment a lot. I use the term self-determination. And I think that is probably the goal overall. Everybody wants to be left alone, wants to move in and out and amongst the world just as well as white people do. It's that step before that, that we find black people going in all different directions. I'm doing a year's worth of videos. Someone wants to organize ski trips. Other people write books and go on speaking tours um, to get us moving towards the goal. So that's uh, the challenge. We're a body with many parts, different gifts, and stuff like that. And so, how to gather that up and get us moving in the right direction? That's going to take some strong, focused leadership, a leader that's able to articulate a whole lot of different disciplines over a whole lot of over time, different ages, you know, different concerns, geographical areas, a leadership or a leadership base. These men and women are going to have a big challenge on their hand. It's going to be important for blacks to for them to harmonize with that initiative, trust that leader is moving, uh, going in a direction that's going to benefit the majority of black folks. This leadership needs to be creative, innovative, making that common direction, like I just said, um, get us harmonizing. There's a lot of parts. I work in a logistics company, and I'm mostly at the front end with the unloading portion of it and stuff. But this product, this box from this company has got to go to this home, and it's got to be scanned, handled, and moved around the building and there's a lot of moving parts, but everybody there, the 40, 50 people there, need to be working in concert, in agreement with one another to get this job done. That's what black folks are going to need to have happen. It's possible, but we've talked, just recently, just in the past few days, about black denial on one part, and then black exasperation on another side of the spectrum. Got a long way to go. So look, I think I'm preaching to the choir. There can't be new information as we just summarized some of Dr. Anderson's recommendations, but we need the record. We need it on, to have the discussion about these points. Don't be fooled. Don't fall asleep and go into some passive state as far as making life better for blacks. We got a long way to go. A lot of things to look at, challenge ourselves with on this issue. Uh, but remember, here, this venue, this voice, my video log here we're just grassroots, laying the foundation, very broad base, so we can erect a great structure. I probably won't be around to see it due to I'm coming to the game in a serious way, very late in the process. Hopefully, maybe my age and wisdom, if you want to call it that, is an aid. All right, so I don't ramble. There's day 191. Please come back tomorrow, and we'll talk about maybe getting a physical building, a physical space in which to house these leaders. Be touching on the subject that's starting to become a growing concern of mine is land ownership. That is super duper validation that blacks are progressing to see some black land ownership. I'm Tomlins Nyback. Thanks for hanging out with me on day 191 of 365 days towards racial change. I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.